Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court with Krissy. This Jekyll and Hyde defendant didn't get invited to his friend's father's private funeral. What happened after? All the WTF. Good news is the victim survived. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
Morning, Detective.
Morning, Your Honor.
Sorry for the delay. We were just trying to finish up a couple other hearings, but are you all set for Mr. Paul Jusevic?
I am.
Now calling prosecutor order number 25-03246, the People versus Robert Paul Jusevic. This is the date and time set for a swear to. Detective, can I have you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. You are under oath. Please state your full name for the record, and you may proceed when you're ready.
Good morning, Your Honor. Detective Roy. On March 20th, 2025 at Probable Health Beaumont Troy Hospital, which is located at 44201 DeQuinder Road in the city of Troy. This incident involves the defendant, Robert Jusevic. On the listed date at approximately 7:08 a.m., Troy Dispatch received a 911 call from Corwell Security stating that there was an active shooter. Further information was relayed stating that a victim had been shot while in the parking deck. Troy PD officers arrived on scene and located a black Ford Escape in the parking deck with multiple bullet holes through the windshield. Several shell casings were on the ground, and a blood trail was observed leading towards the hospital. A victim was identified who had sustained multiple gunshot wounds to his arm and shoulder. The victim was taken to the emergency room for medical treatment. Information was obtained from the victim, who stated that he had been shot by the defendant. Numerous officers from local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies arrived on scene, and a search of the hospital and surrounding areas was conducted. Using the information provided by the victim, a registered vehicle was found in law enforcement databases, along with an address. Blocked LPR cameras were checked, which showed the suspect vehicle at Quinder and South Boulevard at approximately 5:25 in the morning, Ryan and Utica at approximately 7:12 in the morning, and 26 Mile and Van Dyke at approximately 7:36 in the morning. Macomb County Sheriff's Office was contacted and deputies were sent to the address. Upon arrival, deputies observed the suspect vehicle in the driveway of the home. A male matching the suspect description was observed walking in the backyard and appeared to be talking on the phone. Contact was made with the defendant, who exited the home and was taken into custody. He was then transported to Troy PD. The defendant's family members were interviewed by officers and stated that they knew that the defendant and victim were friends. They were aware that there had been a falling out between the two, but stated that the victim had attended a birthday party in January, so they believed that it had been set aside. The defendant's sister described the defendant as having a short fuse and stated that he would often argue with people. They all stated that the defendant worked the night shift at the hospital, and they believed that he had worked the night before the incident. The residence was searched, but no .45 caliber firearm was located. The defendant's cell phone was also not located in the home. The victim was interviewed twice at the hospital. He stated that he met the defendant while working afternoons at the hospital about a year ago. They became friends and hung out after their shifts often. The victim described the defendant as Jekyll and Hyde, and that sometimes he would be easygoing, but other times he'd overreact. The defendant stated that the victim was his only non-Albanian friend and made it clear that his people were not to be fucked with. The victim stated that there was typically a cloud hanging over the defendant, and there was always a fear of what he might do, and described the defendant as a bully. It was described that there was a falling out between the defendant and the victim when the victim's dad passed away in January 2025. There was a private viewing for family only, and the defendant was upset that he was not invited. The victim's mom stated that at the public viewing, she heard the defendant make a comment to the body of the victim's father that, quote unquote, "your cocksucking son would not invite me to meet you," in reference to the private viewing. After this, there was a FaceTime call between the defendant and the victim, where the defendant urinated on the funeral brochures for the victim's funeral's father. The defendant had made a comment to the victim, "If I do see you outside in public, don't be surprised if something happens." The victim's mother was also interviewed and described the defendant as highly possessive of the victim. She confirmed that the falling out was due to the victim's father's funeral and a subsequent FaceTime call. She believed the victim stopped communicating and associating with the defendant after this, which likely made him angry. Officers interviewed co-workers of the defendant and victim. They described the defendant as a as very patriotic for Albania and argumentative. They stated that during arguments, the defendant would make comments like, "Fuck you, I'll fuck your mom, and I'll put my dick in your mouth." They also described the defendant as energetic and amped up. The defendant has previously talked about getting in bar fights and made comments, "When I get mad, I see red." They were aware of the friendship between the defendant and the victim and were also aware of the falling out. During a shift in early March, the victim confronted the defendant about urinating on the prayer card, and the defendant responded, "You deserve that, you'll see." When the defendant was turned over to Troy PD, it was reported that the defendant was laughing during the booking process, as the volume of police response to the incident was described. Detectives asked the defendant if he knew why he was in custody, to which he stated something to the effect of, "Yeah, I kind of figured," and chuckled. The defendant made no further statements and requested an attorney. The defendant's cell phone and the weapon used in this incident have not been recovered. This case was presented to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office for review, and a warrant was authorized for the charges you have before you today.
The court finds that probable cause has been established related to the submitted charges. I am signing the complaint and authorizing the warrant. Is there anything else that you'd like to state now regarding bond?
Your Honor, while the defendant does not have a criminal history indicating past violence, this incident indicates that he is a danger to the public. Despite his age, it is alleged that he was able to obtain a firearm and used it in an attempt to take someone's life. The defendant had the forethought to dispose of the phone and weapon used in this incident in an attempt to evade arrest and hinder the investigation. Subsequent interviews with family and close friends indicate an unwillingness to fully cooperate with law enforcement. We feel this is indicative of a lack of future cooperation or accountability in the event the suspect was to be released on bond. If a bond was to be issued, we would respectfully request a high cash bond.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Detective. I'm just waiting for our attorney to finish up speaking with him, and then we'll move forward with the arraignment. Obviously, you're going to join us for that?
I am.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Then we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
It's right here.
Now calling prosecutor order number 25-03246, the People versus Robert Paljusevic. This is the date and time set for arraignment. Counsel, your appearance.
Nancy Plaster, for purposes of arraignment only, on behalf of the defendant. For purposes of arraignment, I've advised him of the charges as well as his rights. He's going to waive formal reading, stand mute, ask for pleas of not guilty, and he's requesting court-appointed counsel, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. The court will waive formal reading and enter a plea of not guilty on behalf of Mr. Paljusevic. I have reviewed the request for court-appointed attorney form that was filled out and submitted. Based on the representations made, I do find that Mr. Paljusevic qualifies for court-appointed counsel, so I will appoint an attorney for him moving forward. Counsel, as it relates to bond, what would you like to state on behalf of your client?
He's 21 years old. He resides with his sister. His parents also live in Michigan. He is a U.S. citizen. He had been working at the hospital for approximately 2 years, Your Honor. He did finish high school. He indicated to me that the only thing he recalls ever having any difficulty with the law was some type of public intoxication from a couple years ago. He's not on probation or parole at the time currently. We're respectfully asking, despite the seriousness of these charges, that you do grant him a bond and give him the opportunity to possibly be able to be out pending the resolution of these matters.
Thank you, counsel. Detective, would you like to place your appearance on the record?
Detective Carlo Pizzorni, Troy Police Department.
Thank you, Detective. Is there anything you'd like to state regarding bond?
Just what was previously stated during the swear to.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Detective. Obviously, I did conduct the swear to in this matter just a few minutes ago. I have reviewed the police report, all of the documents, pictures that were produced. Court is certainly troubled by the allegations. Obviously, count one is assault with intent to murder. That in and of itself, I don't see a single condition that the court could impose that would make Mr. Paul Jusevic any less of a danger to society, based on what I've read and what I've heard. That, and combine that with the 2 other felonies involving firearms in which he was not legally permitted to carry. MCR 6.106B, subsection B, subsection 1 provides the court the authority to deny bond in certain cases involving murder, attempted murder. I do believe that that is warranted in this matter as well. As such, the court's going to deny bond at this time. Mr. Paul Jusevic, you will remain in custody at the Oakland County Jail until at least your next hearing, which is currently scheduled for March 31st at 9 a.m. That'll be at the 52-4 District Court in Troy. Obviously, you will have the right to address bond at that time, and you will have an attorney appointed that will contact you in the next few days. Mr. Paul Jusevic, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
I would just note
No.
our objection to no bond in this particular matter, Your Honor.
So noted. Thank you, counsel.
Thank you, Your
Thank
Honor.
you, detective.
Thank you.
Just wait for the paper. We're gonna go right this way. We're gonna go